Hare Krishna, Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So today we will discuss chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. As we discussed at the end of chapter 3, that Lord Krishna says to control lust. Lust is that force which takes us away from prescribed duty. So to control that lust, we need to cultivate spiritual intelligence. And we need to nourish our intelligence with the wisdom, with the knowledge. In continuation of that, chapter 4 starts by the name transcendental knowledge, or the Jnana Yoga, or the knowledge which can nourish the intelligence to help the intelligence come out of the lust, so that a person can become focused on one's duties. Because usually the person every person can have tendency to be affected by two kinds of disease. Either the person deviates from one's prescribed duty and become an escapist, or tends to imitate someone else's duties in this world, thinking that that work is more pleasing than my work, so let me change. Of course, sometimes one may need to change one's current work because one may not be properly situated as per one's nature, as per the work which is suited for one's nature. But one should always consult and have proper introspection to find out whether one wants to change one's current work or give up one's one work just because it is not as per one's nature, or is it just a tendency to escape because one cannot tolerate the inconvenience associated with one's nature, one's work. So like this. So let's look at the chapter 4. Now, chapter 4, if you study, in the first 3 verses, Lord Krishna tells that I gave this knowledge to Sun God. And he establishes the importance of disciplic succession. Now, when we are talking about this knowledge, Lord Krishna says, I gave this knowledge. Which knowledge? The knowledge based on which you can not only be fixed in your duties, but you can do your duties in such a way that it also provides spiritual elevation to you. It also leads to liberation. So where you can combine both material and spiritual benefits, how to perform action in such a manner. So that whole science was instructed by Lord Krishna to Sun God many, many years ago. So in the first 3 verses, he brings out this point of accepting or getting the training in a proper disciplic succession, in a succession of disciples, from a guru to disciple, guru to disciple. And in text 3, especially if you see, it is mentioned that Lord Krishna says, I chose you, Arjun, to give this knowledge because you are my very dear friend and you are my devotee. So here, Lord Krishna is bringing out a very important point, that actually to get qualified for spiritual knowledge, one should have a proper devotional attitude and not a rebellious attitude or a challenging attitude. Because when we say friend, friend means, okay, you are ready to discuss as friends in a mood of cooperation. If something works, yes, I'm ready to pick up that. I'm ready to pick up new habits, new understanding. I'm ready for a change. But when somebody is rebellious or somebody comes in a challenging attitude, such a person cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. There has to be a submissive attitude, attitude of humility, attitude of ready to change oneself. So this is mentioned in the first 3 verses, that how one thing is one has to get this in the proper disciplic succession, which is called as parampara. And second thing is one need to have the right attitude for this knowledge. Therefore, we have discussed previously that Bhagavad Gita or any spiritual subject cannot be learned just by paying money or just by scholarship, just because somebody has a great memory skill. So somebody memorizes Bhagavad Gita verses. I mean, there are people who have memorized all 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, but their mind intelligence and the spirit soul is not at all trained as per the principles of Bhagavad Gita. So yes, memorization can have some importance, but that is not as important as much as applying it in our life. And for that, one need to have right attitude. Okay, then this is the first 3 verses. Then Lord Krishna tells Arjuna after that, So when Lord Krishna mentioned about sun god, then text 4 onwards, Arjun starts asking questions. Arjun raises one question. He says, how can you give this knowledge to sun god? Because as per the birth succession, it seems the Lord Krishna took birth on this planet Earth at the same time as Arjuna, in the same era. So how Krishna says, I gave this knowledge to sun god millions of years back? Arjuna is thinking, so this means you are not an ordinary person like me. Who are you? So here one thing is very clear, that spiritual concepts are understood by humble question and answer, inquiry. One must have a jigyasa inquiry to understand the concepts better. Arjun raises that inquiry. So this means blind faith is not good. It is said intelligence should come before faith. Because first with your intelligence, you should understand the path is right. Once you know the path is right, then you can place faith. Most people, those who are blind followers, they keep faith first, intelligence later. And they'll end up keeping faith on anything and everything, which is not good. First, there should be intelligence, then faith. And this is what was mentioned in this case. The Lord Arjun inquires to Lord Krishna, how, what is your relation with sun god? Now, in response to that, in text number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Krishna brings out knowledge of his transcendental position, how Krishna is not an ordinary person like all of us. If you read 9th verse, Krishna says, my birth and activities are not like yours. My birth and activities are transcendental. And therefore, here we understand the whole concept of God, who is Krishna himself, in a much deeper way. And in 5th and 6th, he talks about the birth, and 7th and 8th, he talks about activities, Janma and Karma. Therefore, in 9th verse, it says, Janma Karma cha me divyam. My birth and activities are transcendental. So somebody who is beginning to understand God, suddenly he gets this understanding that Krishna is not an ordinary person. So when he says my birth and activities are transcendental, what does he want to say? He says all of us, we ordinary living entities, we take birth in different bodies. It can be a cat's body, a cow's body, a dog's body, a human body. Based on our karma, based on the kind of activities we perform, we are forced to take birth in that kind of body. Like suppose we give an example, there is a currency note of 500 rupees. So if that currency note is there, it has a proper use. If somebody uses that currency note to eat samosa on that note, use it as a paper plate to eat samosa, next time the person who gave you the currency note will think 10 times, should I give it or not? Because you are not using something which it is meant for. Similarly, Shastra scriptures explain that human body is meant for spiritual attainment. So Bhagavad Gita may give us lessons of how to live a better life in this world, but that's not the only thing. Actually, Bhagavad Gita tells us how to use human life to get out of cycle of birth and death. We are constantly moving in this cycle of 84 lakh species. There are 84 lakh species. We constantly keep changing bodies. The idea is get out of this species and go back to Shri Krishna. Develop your relation with God, which we have forgotten since long, since time immemorial. So we are forced to take birth as per our karma. But Lord Krishna says, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjun. In 5th and 6th verse, he says that I have appeared many times in this world. You have appeared, but people like ordinary people like you, they take birth based on their karma. But I take birth by my free will, which means just like sun appears on the horizon and then sets, or sun takes, like morning somebody may say sun has taken birth, but sun has not taken birth, it just appeared in front of eyes. Sun was always there, not that in the evening sun dies, it's just out of our vision. Similarly, when God comes, he comes by his free will. He comes, he disappears. He comes, he disappears. But when he comes, he appears as if he's taking birth from the womb of a lady. But actually, he just comes in front of our eyes. And Krishna wants to bring that. And therefore, Krishna says, I remember all those births. You do not remember because you are changing bodies. And with the changing bodies, you are forgetting everything. So thus, Krishna brings this whole concept of eternity, that how there is an eternal existence and we are subject to this temporary existence. And therefore, we take birth, we die. We take birth, we die. But Krishna is not like that. And seventh and eighth verse, Krishna talks about his activities where he says, Janma yada yada hi dharmasya. The famous verse comes in the fourth chapter. That whenever religious activities or whenever proper, I'm not talking about religious in terms of Hindu, Christian, Muslim. Religious means the path of virtue, the path of piety, पवित्रता का मार्ग. जब उसमें हानि होती है, पवित्रता के मार्ग में जब हानि होती है, Krishna says, I appear to set the existence in order again. So again and again I appear at different times, and that is called as avatar, incarnation. Krishna incarnates, and many incarnations he takes. One of the incarnation of Krishna is Vishnu. One of the incarnation is Ram. One of the incarnation is Vamana, Parshuram, Buddha, etc., etc. Many incarnations are there. Balaram, like this. So he introduces the whole transcendental concept. And why this has to be understood? You see, just like when we are aware, we are under observation. Somebody is supervising us. Like suppose you are there on the traffic signal and you see a police is observing me. You will not break the rules. But when you see nobody is observing, you tend to break the rules. So very interesting. The moment you see there is a God in existence, he is controlling everything, he is supervising everything, then we know that we should stick to our duties. And in the 10th verse, he says, there are three forces because of which a person is not ready to accept the knowledge of God. If you see the 10th verse, it says, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. Raga, Bhaya and Krodha. What is Raga? Raga is attachment. Bhaya is fear. And Krodha is anger. I give you an example, just like somebody who is too attached just for enjoyment. He is not ready to listen to the knowledge. Like a small child, no, I want a toy, I want a toy, I want a toy. He's too attached to a toy. You tell him to sit at least half an hour, understand the knowledge. No, I'm not interested. So very few people have spiritual inclination who want to study the spiritual side of life, proper systematic study of Shastra scriptures. Raga, attachment. Any attachment. Child has an attachment to a toy. Somebody is too obsessed with desire to earn money, attachment. Somebody who's too obsessed to fulfill his desire in a certain way, attachment. Vita Raga. Vita means free. Only one who is free from Raga can sit with a peaceful mind and study such literatures and understand how to make best use of one's life. Second is Bhaya, fear. Many kinds of fear are there. But when we are fearful, just like, you are sitting in a forest, you have a fear from any angle, from any direction, a snake will come. Then you can't sit and meditate. For meditation, you need to be in a peaceful place. Therefore, sometimes we see a place is full of people and we tell them, close your eyes for 5 minutes. People who are too restless, they can't close their eyes. Their eyes open every 1 minute. Some people are fearful. Oh, if somebody attacks me, somebody slaps me, what's happening? Unnecessary fear. Some people just can't close their eyes. Too fearful. So in fearful circumstances, you can't meditate. Similarly, krodha, anger, is the third obstacle to understand God. Some people who have experienced too much frustration in life, at times they feel God is responsible for everything. They don't understand things properly. But then Krishna says in the 10th verse, the more and more you understand the knowledge of creation, the knowledge of how this creation took place, what is the role of God, how God is helping us, how apparently it may appear that God is cruel sometimes, but he is not cruel. Every intervention of Lord Krishna, of God, whom we say God, in our life is for our benefit. But these all good thoughts develop when you cultivate knowledge. Therefore, 10th verse says, those whose minds are purified by knowledge, these three things, they get rid of these three diseases. Too much attachment, too much fear, too much anger. They get free from these diseases. So Lord Krishna says, one should cultivate knowledge about me. So Krishna is telling Arjun, if you have made friendship, please understand with whom you have made friendship. Please understand my powers. Please understand three things. There are three things one should understand about God. One thing is God is all powerful. Then God is all merciful and God is all knowing. All merciful, all knowing, all powerful. Because suppose if God has all the power and God is all knowing, He knows everything about our troubles, about miseries. But if God is not all merciful, agar daya hi nahi hai unke andar, if He is not merciful, then what will happen? Then we would not be interested in making friends with such a person. Then if somebody who is merciful, who is all knowing also, he knows everything, but he doesn't have the power to help us. Now, there could be somebody who is all powerful, he knows how to help us. He merciful, he wants to help us, but he doesn't know about our misery. For God to be God, he should be all powerful. Means all kinds of powers he should have. Then he should be all knowing, he should know everything. And he should be all merciful. He should have mercy on us in all situations. Such a person is God. So one needs to study the nature of God by understanding all the stories mentioned in the scriptures, which are not mythological stories, but which are real stories, real incidents happen. And that help us to understand our relationship with Sri Krishna. So Krishna is telling in 4th chapter, 10th verse, Vita raga bhaya krodha man maya mam upashrita bahavo jnana tapasa puta mad bhava magat. It says, Bahavo Gyan Tapasa, many who are purified by knowledge of me, they attain a transcendental love for me, which means they are ready to work as per my instructions and make the best use of their life. In a simple, you want to marry someone. First, the idea is you understand that person and their family background, their educational background, their career background nicely. Because you have to stay with that person for a long time, years and years. So you want to understand them very nicely. Somebody wants to take admission in a school. They want to understand the success rate of the school, of the college, of the university. Similarly, you want to make a relation with Krishna, you should cultivate knowledge about Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is recommending this in the 9th and 10th verse, that you need to develop this relation very strongly. 9th and 10th. Then 11th verse onwards, Lord Krishna starts telling us, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajami ham. Very few people will take interest in developing relation with Krishna. In 12th verse, he says, most people come to God just to fulfill their material desires. Very few people are interested in actually understanding their relation with Sri Krishna. And because most people are interested in their material desires, 13th verse onwards, Lord Krishna says, therefore I have created a facility by which they get a circumstance where they can fulfill their desires also and gradually attain spiritual success also. Therefore he says, Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. I have created a system of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Now please understand this. Some people do not like to read Bhagavad Gita thinking that it promotes caste system. It creates differences in the society. But no, this is not like that. It is based on one's activities, and just like if you have any setup, any society, there is a group of teachers, there is a group of administrators, there is a group of working class, there is a group of business class, mercantile class, who are earning money, who are business people basically. 4 categories are there. You can't say this is natural. This has to be there in the society. There has to be a teacher class, there has to be administrator, there has to be business people, and there has to be a working class. And Bhagavad Gita doesn't say that one should be respected more, one should be respected. Give respect to everyone because society works in cooperation. But Krishna says, I made these categories by which people can live as per what their pravritti, what their nature is. If somebody wants to become a teacher, become teacher. Somebody wants to become administrator, become administrator. And based on that, you are comfortable in the kind of work you want to do. You fulfill your desires through that work, and side by side, do your work that you attain spiritual success. So this is how Lord Krishna is telling that how I do not control people. I just facilitate them. So here Krishna also brings a very important life lesson for us. That in any relationship, one should not control people more than allowed. There's a limitation in every relation, and often relationships become suffocating when we start controlling other people in a certain relation. Then it becomes really suffocating. Therefore, once he brings this concept that this world is a facility for you to live desires as per your comfort and gradually cultivate spiritual interest. So Krishna is telling Arjun, you are a Kshatriya. It is a platform for you to perform your duties. It's not that I need something from this battle. I have no interest. It's for you to get a sense of contribution. You engage in this battle like this. And then Lord Krishna in 16th verse onwards, 16th till 24th, Lord Krishna gives the qualities of a person who performs work in transcendental knowledge. And he brings out three kinds of words: karma, vikarma, and akarma. He said, if you perform any activity, you will fall into these three categories. What are the three categories? There is a category vikarma. Vikarma means that action which is prohibited by scriptures, which is harmful for you, harmful for society. If you do vikarma, you will get bad reaction. Like suppose somebody smokes cigarette, it damages his lungs. So similarly, scriptures recommend something. If you do that, if you do not follow scriptures, then you suffer a bad reaction. That is vikarma. What is karma? Karma means you do as per scriptures, but you do for your personal enjoyment and you get a good reaction. You do something as per scripture. Scripture says you fulfill your desire like this. And you get, like you want money, you want to earn a lot of money. Scriptures say, okay, do this activity, do this puja, do this yajna, you will become qualified to earn a lot of money, and then you earn money, you benefit. But then they say there is something called as akarma. You can see this in 16, 17, or 18. This akarma word is mentioned. What is akarma? Akarma is inaction, which means an activity you perform exclusively for the pleasure of God, for the pleasure of Sri Krishna. So Krishna is telling Arjun, I have a project. These are all bad people for the society. I have to anyway eradicate them, whether I eradicate them through you or through someone else. But if I do it through you, you get the credit also. So akarma means you perform an activity as per your nature. Arjun is an administrator, so Arjun knows how to fight a battle. So he's telling Krishna, can I engage my propensity in your pleasure as per your plan? That is akarma. And a beautiful example is given. A policeman, he shoots a criminal. He gets rewarded for that. But the same policeman comes home for no reason, shoots one of his family members. He's punished for that. Because one action is done whimsically and one action is done for the pleasure of his authorities, for the pleasure of government, for the pleasure of society. That is called as akarma, which leads to liberation or moksha. So this concept is introduced in 16th chapter, 16th verse onwards. Until 24th verse, Lord Krishna gives the qualities of people who actually learn to work in this format. So basically, Krishna teaches you that, like suppose one of the verse in 4th chapter, where Lord Krishna is teaching, Yadrichaya labha santushta dvandva atita vimatsara. This is 22nd verse, where Krishna is teaching, you will not get always what you like. Learn to like what you get. That is 22nd verse. Always you will not get what you like. At times you have to learn to like what you get. Such a person can be very, very happy. Because somebody who is working in transcendental knowledge, he knows many times I want something, but I may not get something because I am getting things as per my past karma, as per my past action. So this is, so everybody should read this series of verses, 17th, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. How one should live in this world, with what kind of expectations. Everything may not go our way. So with this, so basically Lord Krishna is telling us, you can choose any activity you want in this world, but set your consciousness right. You may be the richest man, you may be the poorest man. And the poorest man can be very happy, richest man can be very miserable if consciousness is not right. So in 25th onwards, Lord Krishna gives a varieties of duties one may choose, varieties of paths one may choose. One may choose this kind of yoga, that kind of yoga. One may choose a celibate lifestyle. One may choose a married lifestyle. One may choose, so many things are mentioned there. But with all these things, consciousness should be right. This is till 4.33. And then he says, to set your consciousness right, in 34th he says, you must have a guru to guide you. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Because a guru trains you with the right kind of knowledge. You can see the world with the right kind of knowledge. And then you can be qualified to perform your activities with the right consciousness. So 34th onwards, he mentions how one should take training from a proper guru in the proper spiritual knowledge. And thus, in last 41 and 42, Lord Krishna says, because when guru will give you knowledge, that knowledge acts like a sword. You can see in 41, 42, the sword word is used. Sword of knowledge. Sword of knowledge cuts through all the doubts within our hearts. And when it cuts through all the doubts in our hearts, then one can actually perform one's duties in with a fixed consciousness, with a fixed focus, without getting distracted. So this is how chapter 4 trains us in transcendental knowledge.